Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today for my first impressions over X days video. So this is the way that I review my eyeshadow palettes these days. And in the month of May, I at least want to do 3 reviews, maybe 4 if I can fit one in, but it's already the second week of May and these take about a week to create, so it is what it is. But I really want to eventually review the Coloured Rain Safari palette. I was thinking about reviewing this one first, but there's some colours in there that are so similar to the Gemini palette. And I reviewed that last month, so I sort of want a bit of a break. I really want to do the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette, which I haven't even opened out of the box. But the first thing I want to touch, because this one is very different to the eyeshadows that I've been using recently, and I think it's quite inspiring. It's cold weather at the moment in Australia, or Melbourne at least. So the Viseart Liaison Palette, I really want to play with. It's a little bit different. It's very cool toned. There's some muted purples, there's some brighter purples, there's some smoky purples, there's a silver shade. So I feel like I can get really distinct looks out of this, but different to what I'm used to using at the moment. So I really want to use this. So I'm going to start by using this today. If you are new to this series, this is a sort of series that is developed out of sort of documenting how I review eyeshadow palettes. What I used to do was sit down and use it for a week, try every shade, try it a few times, try different looks, and then afterwards I would sit down and tell you what I think about the palette. But I've sort of cut out that part and just decided that I'm going to do the first impressions on camera and then check back in as I use this over 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 days, depending on how many days I need to use it to get a good idea of the palette. I show you the looks I create. I tell you what colors I've been using, what I've been liking about it, what I don't like about it, sort of in real time. So you can see my genuine reactions and how it develops over time. So I have tried Viseart formulas before, but I only tried their sort of I don't think it's called Mega Pro, but it's the big pro, and it's got different shimmers in it. So I haven't actually tried their matte formula. I haven't tried this sort of 9-pan format. It's got a sheet on it. I'm going to take this off. Ooh, nice and new. So it's got this sort of chrome purple. It's always fun. It's got a chrome sort of purple lid or finish on the lid, but the rest of it is plastic. You open it up and it does have, it's a clip closure. It's not a magnetic closure and it's not very, very firm, but I can imagine this popping open in travel, if you had it in a suitcase, so you would want to wedge it in between something, but otherwise the packaging is very sturdy. It's not cardboard. Inside, it's got a massive mirror, which is rad, because I can actually see my whole face in this, which is really cool. So I like that. It's got a slip, so it's got the shade names on a slip, and it folds out. So I think if you want, you can pull that out. It looks like it's just, placed in there. I'm going to keep it on because at least I can refer to it, and it keeps the mirror sort of clean. So I kind of like that. It's a bit unusual, but I don't mind it. But of course, what I'm really excited for is the shades. I think these mauvey purples are beautiful. You've got some mattes, what looks like possibly a satin. We'll see when we swatch it. Some more shimmery shades, a brighter purple, a sort of more vibrant shimmer purple. And this looks like a black, but it's actually imagine it's just like a blackened purple, like a blackened version of this, but matte. I sort of see it as being the purple equivalent to a navy, like a navy black. So it's not often you see these colors, but they lean very brown or red toned with their purple, but this is true cool toned blackened purple, which I think could smoke up this look really well. So you sort of have everyday bit of shimmer and a bit of color, which I really like this format of. So I'm really keen to try it. I actually got this as a present for my birthday from Hayley, so I don't know exactly how much she spent on it, but I will link a few places down below if you want to buy it. One thing I do want to mention, I'll show it to you when it's close up. Packaging looks a little bit off center and you can see a little bit of the glue. It doesn't bother me so much because I wanted this for the eyeshadows, but if you are spending a lot of money, that sort of detail is a little bit frustrating. All right, so I'm going to show you a close-up of this. I'll show you a close-up of this and the shades. I'll do swatches on my bare arm, and then I will put this on for the first time and let you know what I think about it. All right, here's the packaging. You can see that it's got shade names and ingredients on the back. All right, we've got the packaging there, and you can see down here, hopefully, if I catch the light, you can see the glue, and there's a gap there that's probably going to get a bit dirty. It just doesn't look as like professional as I would have liked. All right, we can see some details in the back. The palette contains 14 grams of product overall, and we can see the shades there. So you've got the muted row, the shimmery row, and sort of like the more colorful smoky row. All right, just before I swatch them, I wanted to show what it looks like when I picked up the product from the top row. So I've just picked up some product there. They're very soft, but you can see there's a lot of kind of kickback from them because they are so soft. So that's just something to note. All right, the first shade is a matte and it's called Embrace. That is actually really beautiful. Sorry about the light, guys. It's looking a bit funny, but it is getting cold and overcast. We've got Blushing, which is more of a deeper sort of transition shade. That's like a mauvey color. Then we have Fusion, which is similar, but a little bit more sort of, so I've just darkened that, so hopefully you can see it a lot better. This is a lot more purple tone. That's a little bit more nude and brown. Just really quickly, I've swatched the shimmers. They're a lot more robust, so they're not as soft in the pan. So it barely looks like I've even touched them, but I have. It's just more the mattes that are very, very soft. All right, so the next shade is Bisous, which I believe is Kisses in French. That is gorgeous. Look at the quality of that. Pigmentation, it looks really smooth. It's not powdery. It's a beautiful color that sort of works with these mattes. I really, really like it. Then we have Tingle, which is your sort of true sparkly silver. I only picked up a little bit, but look at the pigmentation still left on my finger. It's like that really grips to my finger, same as this one. I've already swatched them, but they're still on there. So yeah, it's crazy. Then we have Shiver, which is more of a purple shimmer. So we have more of, I'd say, a nude, sort of pinky mauve, silver, and then a more purpley nude. I don't know. This last row looks gorgeous. All right, we have Haze, which is like almost like a pastel purple. It looks very soft, but I reckon if you build this up, you can get a really sort of nice color. It's very smooth and even. Focus. Then we have Ecstasy, which, oh my God. Okay, what you probably can't see on camera that I can see, it's got pink, purple, and blue micro shimmer in it. So not only does it look like a shimmery purple with a dark base, it's got a multitude of different shimmers in there that make it look really, really unique. And then we have Falling, which is that sort of blackened, oh, it does look like a navy. It's like a blackened, I don't know, purpley blue, like indigo, dark indigo sort of color, ink, an ink blue. It's kind of cool. I'll just build up a little bit more of that so you can see it. So that's a really interesting addition. I really love this color story. It's beautiful. I like the different finishes. I like how you can create sort of very wearable, very bold. You could even have like such a harsh look with this and the silver if you wanted to. Very interesting. Before I apply this, I also wanted to mention that this mirror is great because you can sort of place it wherever you want. You can have it down, you can have it up. So it's a very usable mirror, and I'm going to be using this mirror to do my makeup today. I also wanted to point out the brushes I'll be using. I'm testing out the new brush set from Ella Cosmetics. So if you're interested in what that is, I'll link it down below, but that's what I'll be using. And as per usual, I've already put primer on. This is the NARS primer in the shade Medium. It's been on for about half an hour now, so it's well and truly set on the eye. I haven't powdered it down, but it's not transferring or sticky. All right, I'm going to start with the first shade just to put in my crease. This is the shade Embrace. So, oh, it definitely is a cool toned sort of nude color. So you can see that on my skin, it does look, it's not leaning orange. It's looking a little bit purple, if anything. This is very soft to pick up with your brush, but it doesn't seem to have much fallout on the face. It just seems to kick up a lot in the pan. So there's that. On the same brush, which this is the E11, I'm going to just go in with that second sort of shade on the top row, which is Blushing. I'm just deepening the crease very, very slightly. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is on the top lid go very nude and sort of very natural, and then on the bottom I'm going to hit up some of the purples. So what I tend to do with these reviews is I use like a lot of shades in my first look, and then I'll pair them back and use only a couple in the next few looks. So I'll really, do a look using the silver. I'll do a look using, the brighter purples. I'll sort of isolate them a little bit, but when I first do it, I try to use as many colors as possible. So that's why I'm doing this. All right, I'm not too sure what shape brushes work best with the shimmers. So I'm going in with this one, which is the E18, which is a little bit fluffy, so you can blend it, but it's also flat and quite firm. So you can sort of pack things on, but also then diffuse them if you want. So I kind of like these brushes when I'm not too sure what to use. And I'm thinking of using the Kisses shade, Bisou. All right, I'm just gonna use that all over the lid. Already I can see there's a little bit of fallout going on, so it's best to sort of not swipe it too much. But this is a beautiful color. It's not super opaque. It sort of reminds me of like what you'd imagine bridal makeup would want to be, sort of just nice and soft, but really flattering on the eye. I think if you didn't like much shimmer, you could probably still get away with liking this. I'm sure you can build it up if you apply it like over a glitter glue, or if you apply it with your finger, you can sort of build it up a bit. It's just a really flattering amount of shimmer that actually it doesn't look like it emphasizes creases and stuff. So if you're the type of person that's scared of like metallic shimmers or glitters, this actually looks like it just brightens the eye a lot. It's very pretty. Using more of a pencil brush, I'm going in with the silver shade just to put on my inner corner a little bit. This is sort of like the lightest or brightest shade in the palette. There's definitely no traditional sort of highlight shades in this palette, which is probably good because then it'd make it just a boring nude. But you can definitely use this silver. Once again, if you sort of buff it out, it just creates like a diffused shimmer, which is very, very pretty. On that same brush, which is the E15, I'm going to use the dark sort of shimmery purple shade just to put under here a little bit. I think the shimmers apply really smoothly and really nicely. I do have a bit of fallout going on. I think that's from the silver, but oh wow, see, that's really easy to pick up and apply with the brush. I like it when shimmers behave well. So it's really easy to get the color payoff with just a small amount, but you can also blend it out really easily. So it's a really nice shimmer formula. Now what I'm going to do is, with the same brush, I've just wiped it off a little bit. I'm going in with that navy color and just running it in the outer corner just to deepen it a little bit. And I'm going to bring that up the top just to sort of bring the two sort of looks together a little bit. And that is a really nicely complementing sort of smoky shade. It's definitely, like I said, not plum. It's more of a navy, but it just complements the colors, both the brighter colors and the nude colors, really, really well. It's pretty and it blends nicely. I'm getting no fallout. It is very soft in the pan. So once again, there's a lot of kickback, but I'm not finding that it's shedding down my face, which is good. So it doesn't take much to blend out, doesn't take much to build up. So it's a pretty well-behaving matte. All right, just with a clean, fluffy brush. So this is the E10. I'm just going to blend some of that in a bit. Not that I really feel like it needs it. It sort of blends itself really easily when you're applying it. So I don't feel like, this step is necessary, but I just thought I'd clean it up a little bit. And then I'm just gonna touch a tiny bit of that navy again, just to intensify it in the crease a little bit. That's a beautiful color. Once again, you're not gonna be able to see it because the shadow, but I'll try it here so you can see. Look how easy this is to blend. So easy. It like goes where you want it to go. It blends, doesn't skip on the eye. It's a beautiful performing matte. All right, that's the look without liner and mascara. I'll tell you what I think about it in a sec, but I'm gonna do my mascara, do my liner, and then I'll come back. All right, so this is the first look. So it's a bit nude on the lid, more purple on the lower lash line, and then I've just put that sort of navy matte dark purple that blended beautifully just in the crease and in the outer corner just to sort of bring it together, and the silver on the inner corner for a bit of a highlight pop. So that's the first look. All All right, so on absolute first impressions, I like this palette. I think the colors are beautiful. I feel like it's another palette. The last video I did like this was the Suva Beauty Rose Period palette, and with that palette, it was more rosy tones and pinky tones, and I feel like every single shade in that palette, you could just pick them at random and they would be really complementary and you could create complete looks. I feel like this is the same. I think whether you pick that one with that or that with that, you could probably create such complete looks and complementary looks with this. So I really like the color story. I really like the look I created. It's cool toned and it's purple, but it's not sort of unusual or jarring or scary for people that don't like purples or don't like cool tones. They're done in a really flattering way. I think just on first impressions, I've noticed a couple of things about the formula that I do like and I don't like. So firstly, I think the mattes are very beautiful. They blend really nicely on the eye, but they are quite powdery, so they kick up a lot in the pan. So you got to be very careful with just like tap your brush in it and not like agitate the pan. But they don't have much fallout. I don't think the mattes have much fallout. The shimmer does have a little bit of fallout. It's a more stable formula in the pan, so it doesn't kick up a lot of product. But when you do apply it to the eye, it does have a little bit of fallout, which it just means that I've got a little bit of sparkle on my cheeks, which is not a big deal, but you can definitely see that the silver has sort of migrated down a little bit. So if you were going quite heavy-handed with these shimmers, you might want to do your base after you do your eyes, or at least leave this bit, leave concealer off and don't set under your eyes, and then do your concealer afterwards and set afterwards. So that might be a better technique because you do get a little bit of fallout. I find with me, if I highlight this area too far down, it really emphasizes that sort of socket crease, and that's what that silver has done. So whereas I put it just in there, it sort of has migrated down, and now that sort of crease looks really prominent. So I do want to go off, like it's better on this eye, you can't see it as much, but on this eye you can see that that sort of has migrated down. So the shimmers are quite soft when you apply them. They sort of blend on very softly, but they can have a little bit of fallout. And because they do have like micro sparkle in them, you can be left looking a little bit sparkly, which is not the worst thing in the world. All right, so I'm back with day 2 of the Liaison palette, and I've gone more of a soft sort of purple look today. I used 3 shades, so nothing crazy. I'm starting to, isolate certain color stories and trying to create different looks based on it. Tomorrow I'm editing, so I might just go an all nude look, but today I decided to use this shade again. I wanted to apply it with glitter glue to see if it's a lot more intense than it was yesterday, because yesterday was just like a wash of sort of sparkly, like subtle sparkly shimmer. I wanted to see how much like oomph you can get if you apply it with a sticky base. So I applied this. Then I was really curious about how these two compare. So I applied this also on the eye in the outer half. And then I blended it out with this one. So this, and that's all I've got on my eye. And I might zoom in to show it to you because, oh, no, I lie. I also sort of stuffed up my liner a little bit, and I decided to just sort of blend the liner a little bit with that navy color there. So even though the look was supposed to just be the purples, I sort of just buffed the liner a little bit, just softened it with that color. So there is a tiny bit of that color in there as well. So I'm going to zoom in and show you what I've sort of noticed with this look. This is also really similar to a look that I created when I was using Cleona, which is an indie brand, eyeshadow singles. So if you really liked that matte purple and that purple look that I used in my April favorites, I'll put a thing on the screen with it. This is a very, very similar effect, just with, a full palette. So I thought that was interesting that I almost replicated that. All right, hopefully you can notice that with the glitter glue, the shimmery shade is a lot more bold. I only put it on the top, I didn't put it on the bottom. So on the bottom, I've got that more nude shimmer, and then I've got the more purple shimmer. And I've done the same thing on the lid, and then you can see that I've blended it out with a bit of the purple. So it's a very soft purple look. It's very pretty. But one thing I really wanted to point out was that even though these do, look a lot more intense and bold, it's quite hard to distinguish the two shades that I applied on my lid. So here is one shade. Then pretty much from like the highest point of my lid, I've got the other purple shade there as well. And to be honest, I can barely tell a difference. In person, this part looks a little bit brighter, but the color story looks very, very similar. So just a reminder, that is what's on the inner half and that's what's on the outer half. Because the sort of undertones are so similar, it's just the sort of how light one is compared to the other. The effect on the eye is very similar. This on the inner half and then that on the outer half, and they just sort of blend into one. You can see that they are different on the hand and they are different swatched, but they look at the undertone of them or the base color. They look very similar. It's just they catch the light slightly differently. All right, for day 3, I decided to try out the nude mattes on the top row because this is an editing day for me. So I'm at home all day. I don't really need to wear makeup. So if I do wear any makeup, it's very minimal. So I decided to test out the top 3 shades there. So that's what I'm wearing on my eyes today. They're very soft and very easy to blend on the eye, but they're also quite pigmented. So this light one and this mid-toned sort of nude on the top row, they are very, very purple on the eye, which I thought was really surprising. So if you can see my eyes, they look like, I would say, a matte taupe color. So they're definitely not just, these will almost look like brown, but they're not. They sort of look brown compared to the purples in the palette, but they are actually like purple toned nudes. So I've got this just in the crease and also put it on my lid. Then I put this one on the outer half and blended it out. And then with this shade here, which is more of a satin, so you can see it does have a bit of a sheen in the pan. It does apply quite matte on the eyes, but I just ran this on the lower lash line and just right in the corner. So I've used all 3 shades and I will zoom in, but hopefully you can see that it's actually more like a soft mauvey nude look rather than a traditional brown toned nude. So hopefully you can see the shades on my eye and you can see that there is like a hazy, soft, sort of mauvey purple look, which I was very surprised. They applied very nicely. I had no issues blending them out or building them up. I was just really surprised that on my skin they look so purple because in the pan they look quite nude, but I suppose if you isolate them you can sort of start seeing some more purple elements to them, but if you compare them to the other purples they look quite brown, but definitely they are more mauve on the eyes, which I really like. I think it's a flattering color, especially if you like cooler toned nudes. So this is sort of colors that I would happily reach for to create a just really soft matte look. So I really liked these 3. All right, so day number 4, and I still really want to do a brighter sort of darker purple look with the 2 bottom shades or these 3 bottom shades down here, and that's probably what I'll do tomorrow because today I'm just filming hand stuff for like the makeup breakup. I didn't want to like put too much effort into my eyes, so I decided to focus more on the silver. So that's what I've done today, and all I did was put the silver, I sort of brushed it over the eye with a fluffy brush, so I didn't pack it on, I sort of just swept it on, and then I got this sort of mauvey matte shade. I ran that on the lower lash line. I sort of ran it with a really small fluffy brush in the crease sort of more precisely so it didn't go onto the lid too much, and then I blended it out a little bit with that, so I just blended it up into the crease a bit more with that shade there. So 3 shades. I'll zoom in so you can see what I've done. So I feel like this is giving a very similar vibe to yesterday, but yesterday was cool toned and all matte. Today is cool toned, but it's got that wash of the silver instead of just the mattes. I think this is a fairly pretty look. I don't usually like silvers. It's not a color I'm sort of comfortable with, so this is a little bit like out of my comfort zone, but I think it is still quite flattering. I think the amount of shimmer on the eye, I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but there is definitely enough to give the eye a lot of brightness, but it doesn't look foiled. It still looks like a nice wash of shimmer. I might turn this brightness down so you can see what I'm talking about. You can probably see the shimmer a lot better there. You can see the sort of mauvey purple in the crease and on the lower lash line. So the shades that I used today all performed really well. There's no glitter fallout under my eye, which I was surprised about because I did use the silver on like a fluffy brush and I just kind of swept it on. But for me, I prefer the silver as like a highlight shade, as just a pop in the inner corner, because it's very silver. But it is a flattering silver. It's not like a foiled bold silver that you can't wear on a daily basis. You totally can. All right, we're back for the final day of the Viseart palette, and I have decided to go a purple look like I said I wanted to. I can't finish this sort of series without using that bottom row. So that's what I've done today. I've pretty much used all the purples. I've used this purple in the inner corner, which I'll zoom in and show you in a second. I use that all over the lid. I use that in the crease, and I use that in the outer corner and just on the like lower lash line, the outer part. That's what I've done. So it's a very, very purple look, but it's actually still a very, very flattering look. Maybe don't wear it with this lip. I'm wearing MAC Saint Germain. I just thought, why not? Let's go crazy. So you can see that it's very purple, but it's not like overly like ridiculous purple. You can see that the lid is that sort of shimmery purple, which applied beautifully. It not only applied quite bold on normal eyeshadow primer, but it blended out nicely. There wasn't much fallout at all. And you can see that I just blended it a little bit into the crease very softly with that sort of matte purple, which I think is a great addition to the palette. There we've got that brighter sort of shimmery purple. And then on the outer corner, which I'm not sure if you can see right now, but I blended a little bit of that sort of navy matte business going on. I think it's a beautiful look. I do have a bit of black liner. I did put some outer corner lashes on just to make it look a little bit more dramatic. And I think if you applied this with even like a lip gloss and maybe skipped on the lashes or even skipped on the liner, it was really beautiful just with the eyeshadow. You could probably, you know, make it a little bit more daytime appropriate, or you could vamp it up with like a berry look. I think it could be really cool, but I really love the effect. I think the purples are really flattering. They all worked really well together, which was really nice. And even though, like I said, it's a bold look, it still is a very sort of wearable purple combination, even though it is all purple. All right, so like I said, I think that the colors applied really nicely. I had no issues. This one applied gorgeously. I think if you really wanted this to be like crazy foiled and sparkly, you could apply it over a glitter glue and it would just like stick to the eye amazingly. But similar to like these sort of shades, I only applied it just with a standard brush over a standard eyeshadow primer, and it did apply. You could see the color and it applied quite boldly, but it wasn't as opaque as it could be. So you could definitely ramp it up if you want to apply it with your fingers or wet it or whatever you want to do. But it was like, you can see the color. It's really, really beautiful. All right, so overall, I dig this palette. I think if you're after a purple palette, this is a really versatile one that's really gorgeous. And besides fallout, I think it's almost a perfect formula. That's a big claim, but it's a very versatile formula where you can apply it softly and it blends really nicely. The shimmers, like especially this nude shimmer, if you just apply it like a wash of color on the eye, it just adds a really sort of, I'm going to say sophisticated shimmer, because it doesn't emphasize sort of skin texture or creases or patches. It sort of just smooths over and gives the eye a little bit more light. But if you wanted to intensify it, you can apply it with a glitter glue or apply it wet, and it can have that almost foiled, sparkly, sort of beautiful shimmery look. So there is versatility with the shimmers, which is great. The top row, I think, is a hidden gem. It looks very brown and boring in the palette, but on the eye, I think these two are some of my favorite shades of the whole palette, because they actually are very cool toned mauve shades, and they're very flattering, but they're really unique. So often I've come across cool toned sort of like nude shades, and you just kind of go, oh, they make my eyes look kind of, they look gray, they look sort of dirty, they look a little bit dead, but these were so well done. These two I think are gorgeous. There was part of me thinking that maybe you didn't need those two because they are quite similar, but after using them throughout the week, I do think they're different enough. So one does have a slight different formula. It's more of a satin, but I would say that that's more of a red toned purple, whereas this is more of a cool toned purple. I'm not sure if you can see it properly. There you go. So that is the sort of satin one. That's the second one. So even though, look, theoretically, I think you could get rid of one of them in the palette, I still think they work really well together and they help like finalize and complete and blend out looks in this. So, you know, if I was probably trying to skip a redundant shade, I might get rid of that one. But I still think that these are great because with any look, especially if it's like bright purple or sparkly or silver, I think the fact that you can start with this one and blend it out and then intensify a little bit with that one and then intensify a little bit more with that one, it actually creates a really beautiful diffused look. So I do like them all, but those might be a little bit too similar for a 9-pan palette. Similarly, I really like the shimmers. Like I said, I like the formula because it's a wash of flattering shimmer, or you can build it up to make it more intense. So if you have aging skin and you're really worried about sparkly shades or shimmery shades, I wouldn't worry about these so much because they do give a really beautiful sort of shimmer on the eye, but it almost like it glides over texture, which is fantastic. Silver's not my personal cup of tea, but I do like it in this color story. It acts like a beautiful inner corner highlight. On its own, it's beautiful as well. It's just not a color that I resonate with very well, so I would mainly use this as an inner corner highlight. I do think that these two shades are very similar. You have one that's like a little bit more nude and one that's a little bit more purple, but as I saw in, I think, look number 2, I think it was, or look number 3, I don't remember, maybe look number 2, on the eye these do look quite similar. So even though one does have a stronger purple tone and one has a stronger sort of lighter reflect, they can look very similar on the eye. So I don't necessarily think that there was like room in this palette again for both of them, but they are very beautiful and they do work really well with this color story. I think this is a hidden gem. I think this makes any look a little bit more purple, but because I think with this palette, if you wear these sort of purple shades, there's a risk of if you mix them with these, they can become very nude. If you do want to keep the purple tone, this one is gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful shade and it's surprisingly wearable. I could even see myself putting this in the crease or the outer corner or the lower lash line of like a gold eyeshadow, and I think it would just set it off beautifully. So this matte is one of the hidden gems of this palette. So compared to these sort of nudes up here, look at it. It's so different and it really does help a look retain its purple element. Because these are very soft, they do have the tendency that if you blend it away too much, it can look very diffused. So that is a way to inject a little bit more brightness and purple into a look in a really flattering way. This one applied gorgeously. I was really surprised at how beautiful that was to apply just with a normal brush. It's gorgeous and it's actually a really flattering color. Sometimes these blue toned purples can look a little bit clownish, can look a little bit ridiculous. And I'm looking in the viewfinder, I'm like, okay, what looks clownish in this look is the lips, but the eyes, it doesn't look ridiculous. So I think this is a really beautiful sort of purple and you can wear it every day, or you can vamp it up and make it really intense for going out or something really dramatic. And then this shade, I was sort of expecting it to be more purple than it is. It definitely is more of a navy. And even though I really like its inclusion in this palette because it needed a grounding dark shade to just intensify certain areas and whatnot, I think I would have liked it to be a little bit more plum like colored. I think the navy is great, but I think this color story is missing a plum a little bit, because these sort of nudes here, mixing them with a blue, it can make them look a little bit gray. Whereas if you had a slightly more red toned purple rather than a navy, I think you could have worked it with these. I think you could have worked it with everything, but it is still a really nice color that works well with the majority of this palette. So this is a very, very versatile, cool toned palette. And even though it is very purple heavy, even if you weren't sure about purples, really there's only 2 shades that are like strong purples. The others are sort of more like nudes. So if you wanted to dip into these, which are very easy to dip into because they work well with the palette, even if you weren't sure about purples but you liked cool tones, you would like this palette. So you can get day looks, you can get shimmery looks, you can get bold looks, you can get nighttime looks, you can get a whole variety of stuff in this palette. If I had to change it to be slightly more versatile, I think I would have either replaced this with a dark plum, or I would have maybe changed this to a dark plum, and I would have taken out one of those two shimmers that I find are quite similar, and I probably would have replaced it with a shimmery taupe shade that's a little bit more everyday. Like, it's not as, like, these are quite shimmery. Whereas if you look at something like this shade from NARS Kalahari Duo, I can imagine that sort of goldy, taupey color, which does lean quite purple. Like, it does match those shades in the top row. I would have liked to have seen something like that, because that's a cool tone sort of all over the lid shade that I think is really, really gorgeous. So that's that one there. It's a little bit warmer, but you can see that it would work really well with these colors. Yeah, it's a nude taupe color. So yeah, that's what I would have changed, but I think as it is, it's a really solid palette, and if you like cool tones, you'll love it. They've done a fantastic job at creating a palette that you can just grab 2 or 3 shades and the look will work well together. The only thing that would not look purplish, in my opinion, is if you grab some of the nudes and mixed it with the blue, because that would make it look very gray, but it'll still make it a beautiful cool tone look, and you could still definitely do it. But if you did a look with those two, 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 whatever it might be, all these shades work perfectly together, and I think that is a sign of a well-curated palette, and the fact that I didn't need to reach for any other eyeshadow to create all the looks that I created with this palette is commendable. That's what I look for in a palette. I love capsule palettes, but I also, more importantly, love that I can reach for one palette. I can do a full look, not having to reach for 2 or 3 other single eyeshadows or palettes to go with it. So I love this palette. I think it's beautiful. And for someone that doesn't actually wear many purples, this could convert me, because I think it's done so well. It's so flattering, especially on brown eyes. And I have to say that this is probably my favorite purple tone palette I've ever used. So that is mad props for Viseart for doing that. I just find these so inspiring. Like, I do want this in there, but I just find even that so inspiring. The colors are beautiful. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed that review, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one, because next week I'll be doing another week-long review. So there'll be another one in a week's time. All right, see you guys.